Hello, Namaskar, Vanakkam. My name is Sudhir Sahasranaman and you're watching CBSE with Sudhir. Let's get started with the second part of Exploring Society, India and Beyond, the social science textbook for grade 7, class 7, part 2. I hope you already have this particular textbook. Now, in this, there are many more chapters of history, civics, and geography and economics, of course, and these are 8 chapters. Okay, 8 chapters in addition to the 12 chapters or 13 that were there in part 1. I've forgotten how many were there in this thing. It's been such a long time since I did that. There were, I think, 12 chapters. Yeah, that's right, 12 chapters in part 1. So this one, the first one, is the story of Indian farming, which is essentially a geography chapter. We'll try to do this in 2 parts, and then I will do a test paper also so that you are able to handle this. I'm going to explain this particular chapter in this video in English. So I will go a little slow so that you can understand every bit of what I'm saying. Since you have to write the answers in English, it helps to understand it in English also. And at class 7 level, you are rightly positioned to be able to kind of get used to speaking and understanding English language. Okay, so it starts with a quote. A farmer who looks after the welfare of his cattle, visits his farms daily, has the knowledge of the seasons, he's careful about seeds, and is industrious, means he's very hardworking, is rewarded with harvests of all kinds and never perishes. So this is a story of Indian farming, the Indian farmer, agriculture. Do you know that 46% of India's population is directly or indirectly dependent on agriculture, which means that almost 1 in every 2 Indians is either farming himself or herself on the field or is associated with in some way with the agricultural industry. Maybe I am somebody who sells tractors, or I am someone who sells seeds, I am someone who sells fertilizers, right? So in different ways, I would be associated with the entire Indian agriculture or Indian farming sector. Is this clear? So look at these photographs on the first page so that you kind of go into that world. I have spent a lot of time reporting on Indian agriculture, so it is like, one of my pet subjects, something which I have deep understanding of, and I hope I will be able to transfer bit of that knowledge to you children also. Okay, so you see the different activities that are taking place. Some of these we had already studied in class 6 and class 7 in the science chapters, right? You would be able to associate, things like separating wheat from the stalk using a threshing machine, transporting vegetables on the Dal Lake. You see some of these photographs, you would be very fascinated. Now look at this particular shopkeeper, vegetable grower, who is actually transporting cauliflowers on the Dal Lake, on the beautiful Dal Lake in Srinagar, right? So let's get started. These are the 3 broad questions that are going to be addressed in this particular chapter. So when we talk about the Indian agricultural landscape, what exactly do I mean? I mean the entire context of the agriculture sector in the country. So farming or agriculture is one of the oldest occupations of humankind. It encompasses, why is the word humankind used? Because both men and women take part in Indian farming, right? It's very important. When we think of farmer, we generally in our mind think only of the male farmer. Wrong. You would be surprised to know that there's a large majority of women who actually take part in the entire agriculture sector. That's why humankind, not mankind. It encompasses the preparation of soil, cultivation of plants, rearing of livestock. Now, what exactly is livestock? Livestock is cows, buffaloes, goats, sheep. That's all comes under livestock, wherein you kind of also rear animals so that you could get milk, you could get various other products from dairy products from livestock. And in many cases, the growing of trees as part of a comprehensive farming system, which is called the agroforestry. Okay, that is, you use the forest areas also for various needs. In some areas, farmers also practice what is called pisciculture, which is fish rearing. That is, you kind of use grow I mean have a pond where you have fish, etc., so that you are also able to do fishing, etc., so that is called fish pisciculture. Rare cocoons to extract silk thread. We have already studied about silk worms which are used to grow silk. Very broadly, the term agriculture encompasses means includes farming, which is the traditional farming, growing wheat, cotton, rice, mustard, etc. Animal husbandry, which is meaning raising of livestock. Then you have forestry, and then you have horticulture. Horticulture is the growing of fruits, vegetables, flowers, etc. Though flowers is actually floriculture, right, which is considered a part of horticulture, but horticulture essentially refers to all these things of growing fruits and vegetables. Now, the word agriculture, how did it come from? A word agriculture comes from the Latin language. Agri means field in Latin language, and culture means to cultivate. That is, you cultivate the field, that is called agriculture. So, the government of India classifies economic activities relating to agriculture as agriculture allied activities. Allied activities means agriculture and related activities. Broadly, this includes agriculture, livestock related activities, beekeeping, which is called apiculture. Now, this could all come as match the following. Apiculture is that when somebody is kind of cultivating, rearing honeybees in order to extract honey from that, right? Fisheries, rearing of silkworms and preparing silk yarn and fiber production, such as cotton and hemp. What is hemp? Hemp is a thing which is similar to jute, which is used for making ropes, etc. Ropes, as in rassi, right? It is used for all that. Now, a little over 18%. Now, look at this data, which is important, okay? Because it's important data, and that will give you an idea about Indian agriculture in general. So, a little over 18% of the country's total value of goods and services produced in a year, right, comes from agriculture and allied activities. So, 18%. That is the if there are total value. So, if there are 100 rupees of goods which are produced in the country, rupees 18 comes from the agricultural sector. Okay, rupees 18 comes from the agricultural sector according to 2022 and 23 statistics. Approximately 46% of India's working population is engaged in agricultural allied activities. So that's why I said almost one in every two, 46%. If there are two people or if there are 100 people, 46 people are involved in agriculture or agriculture related activities. A large proportion of families in India are closely connected to the land in one way or the other. And in many cases, for example, it's possible that I don't have, but I may have land in my village, right? And I may not be staying in that village, but what I will do, I want to still grow some crops out there. So I will give it to some tenant farmers who will pay me rent for growing on that field, and they whatever they grow, they will sell it and make money out of that, right? So I'm not a direct farmer, but I'm an indirect farmer. I'm associated with agriculture because I'm still owning land on which some kind of crop, rice, wheat, or pulses, whatever is being grown. Farming activities are, of course, essential for nurturing and sustaining the human population. Is this clear? Now, this is interesting. What I just now told you. When you read or hear about the word farmer, what do you visualize? We immediately visualize a male farmer. Most people imagine a man. However, in rural areas of India, more than 75, that is 3 in every 4 farmers are actually working in the agriculture sector are women according to 2025 statistics. That is, if there are 4 farmers working in the fields, only one of them will actually be a male farmer. The 3 will be women farmers. That's very interesting. That's why I told you the why humankind was used and not mankind, right? This is interesting data. So I want you to keep this in mind. They perform most of the farming operations from sowing to harvesting and threshing. Threshing is something which you have studied in class 6. Threshing is removing of the edible grain from the straw or husk manually or using a machine. That is, उसका जैसे गेहूं का ऊपर एक covering होता है, you remove that covering, only then you are able to use the rice also, right? Paddy, you can do that. So similarly, that whole process is called threshing. Now, India's agricultural landscape is a vibrant blend of traditional and modern farming practices with diverse crops and deep-rooted cultural cultural traditions. From the golden wheat fields of Punjab, the saffron valley of Kashmir, the lush green tree of the northeast, and the Nilgiris of the emerald. Emerald is like a blue color. Paddy fields of Kerala. Agriculture has long been a fundamental part of the nation's identity. We are essentially an agricultural nation. If 46% of our population is still involved in agriculture, right? That number is coming down. That percentage is coming down, right? Is definitely coming down because most farmers think that it's a very risky kind of a profession. One rainfall does not happen, your crop gets affected, right? So that's why the number has been going down, but still 46% is a huge percentage. So this is an activity which you need to do, that you locate where you may find whatever you eat, where you are, identify the grains, and locate in where you live on a physical map of India. Which of the food items do you think grow in and around where you live? For example, let me give you an example. For example, if you are, let's say, living in a student in Kerala, right? Now Kerala is one of the rice bowls of India, right? So you would find in the Kuttanad region, etc., you would find a lot of paddy being grown. Similarly, if you are living in the Kaveri basin in Tamil Nadu, you would find a lot of paddy being grown. Let's say you are living in the Godavari belt in Andhra Pradesh, again, paddy being grown. If you are living in and around Mandya, Mysore in southern Karnataka, that is the sugarcane belt. That's where sugarcane is grown to a large extent. If you are a student living in, let's say, Punjab, you will find that is the wheat area of Punjab, of India, where a lot of wheat is grown. If you are a student, let's say, in Bengal in India, there you will have a lot of jute production. If you are a student, let's say, in Telangana or in Maharashtra, there will be a lot of cotton production in India. How do I remember all that? Because I have been involved in all this, and this is something which you, if you kind of get used to the India map and you are able to correlate, nothing needs to be memorized. You don't need to ratify it. All these things come very naturally, and that's what I would want each of my students also to be like. Now, you may have reasoned that growing crops is dependent on several factors: the soil, the climate, the availability of water. All these are important, right? Unless you have water, the crops will dry up. Unless you have the right kind of weather, the monsoon, the water coming, the soil, the right kind of soil, right? For example, when you grow cotton, you need the black cotton soil which is available in Maharashtra and northern Telangana to grow cotton, right? Otherwise, if you grow it in some other kind of soil, it won't be conducive, it won't be ideal for growing cotton. So we will look at some of these factors. This is a very fascinating India map which is there in your textbook, which I'm going to explain in great detail. I'm very fascinated by this chapter. Bahut maza aayega. It will be a lot of fun. So let's look at some kind of historical background to this. So the story of Indian farming goes back to prehistory. Archaeological investigations have shown the presence of rice grains in the Ganga plain. Ganga plain is in, as in present day Uttar Pradesh, largely speaking. Okay. As early as the 7th or the 8th millennium BCE. Some experts have, however, pointed out that this did not mean that rice cultivation was already systematic. That rice was being grown, but it was not in a very organized kind of manner, right? That may have taken a few more millennia to be mastered, means that happened only after a few more years and centuries, right? At Mehergarh in Baluchistan, which is in Pakistan right now, a site antecedent to the Sindhu Saraswati civilization, the cultivation of barley and millets is also dated to the 7th century BCE. So it's just giving you a historical background that, these kind of crops, whether it is rice or barley or millets, were being grown in the past also. Later, barley and wheat were the staple crops of the Harappans. Now, this is important. If you get a question as to what were the staple crops of the Harappans, it is barley and it is gehu, wheat. Several Harappan sites also point to the presence of rice in the 3rd millennia. So rice, barley and wheat were the things. So you can get a question that identify the crop which was not being grown during the Harappan period. You get my point? This is the way MCQs are made, at least in some regions apart from millets and various other several vegetables. Now, Bhagya, Bhagya, Bhag, Milka, Bhag. Okay. Over time, farmers learned to cultivate oil seeds because you needed oil also, which is like sesame oil, safflower, linseed, mustard oil, castor oil. So they started growing oil seeds also. So the farmers were also getting more and more innovative, right? Legumes is the dal. You know, you have the green gram, right? You have the black gram, you have the fenugreek. These are the different names of the different pulses, the legumes, fiber crops including cotton, jute, hemp, etc., vegetables, fruits, etc. Now, so the Vedas also mention. Now, this is very interesting. Yava, which is the name for barley, Godama is a big name for wheat. The Tamil students out here would be able to correlate because wheat is called Godamai in Tamil even now, right? Then Vrihi is the name for rice. Now, this can come as fill in the blank. So, please make a note of these questions, right? Of these names, that is Godumai, Yava, and Vrihi, and other crops which were being grown. So, if you look at these kind of photographs, you see these kind of photographs which indicate that rice was being grown. Intercropping. What is the meaning of intercropping? When you grow two or more crops simultaneously. Like if you have 1 acre of land, you grow, let's say, paddy on half an acre, and the remaining half an acre you grow a bit of vegetables, and on the other crop you maybe grow a bit of oil seeds, let's say linseed or sunflower crop kind of thing you grow. So you are doing intercropping at the same time, the practice of growing two or more different crops simultaneously. Now, these photographs you see intercropping at the Harappan site in Kalibangan around 2800 BC as evidence from perpendicular furrows. The same practice continuing in the 1960s. Okay. Now, this is of intercropping of sugarcane along with pumpkin. Okay. Now, this period also saw the domestication of animals, cattle, asses, sheep, goats, dogs, pigs, fowl, and other animals were domesticated. So, you started growing animals also along with taking care of the field. Now, in the historical period, ancient Indian texts provide a wealth of information on agriculture. Kautilya's Arthashastra, he's talking about various other things which contain writings on agriculture, horticulture, and plant diversity, right? Plant diversity. Some texts also refer to the rearing and care of animals. What exactly? This is grafting. Okay. Now, Surapala's Vriksha, these are things which I'm not expecting it to come in the examination. So I'll go through it a little quickly, which is basically talking about how the different books were referring to the agricultural practices which were there at that point in time. Okay. Here there is one word which has been used, which is grafting, which is very interesting because there are many fruits and flower bearing like apples, etc., which use the process of grafting. Grafting mein hota kya hai? That a technique that joins one plant with another to grow as a single plant, enabling the combining of desirable traits like resistance to pests or sweetness of the fruit. So you kind of join them, right? So you try to get the best practices of the two plants, and that is the process of grafting. Let's move forward to climate, seasons, and crops. What grows where and when? Now, India obviously has a varied geography. For example, the kind of climate that you find in Tamil Nadu is very different from the climate that you find in Meghalaya, is very different from the climate that you find in Kashmir. है ना? It is a vast country with very different kind of climatic conditions at different times of the year. So, all that has a deep and great influence on Indian farming techniques, Indian farming methods. So, in the words of Zhuang, a Chinese pilgrim traveling in India in the 7th century, we'll talk about it later also. He said that the climate and the quality of the soil being different according to the situation, the produce of the land is various. So that's what he said. It becomes different in the kind of crop that you can grow in Kashmir. You may not be able to grow it in Tamil Nadu. You may not be able to grow it in Assam, right? For example, Assam is famous for its tea gardens. Are you hearing about tea gardens, let's say in Telangana? No, you are not doing that, right? In Telangana, you grow cotton. Do you hear of cotton being grown in Assam? You don't. So there is very different according to the soil type and according to the climatic conditions. Okay. So the types of climate in India are, and this is something which we studied in the first part of social science also. The Himalayas are the alpine climate, right? The temperate is the lower end of the Himalayas. Then the subtropical are the northern plains. The arid is the Thar desert in the Rajasthan region. Tropical wet is the western coastal strip, the entire Konkan thing, right? The entire Konkan region. So if you are talking like this is the entire tropical west, the western coastal strip. The semi-arid is the central Deccan plateau, like here, right? Then the eastern India and the southern peninsula is the tropical. Now this is the southern peninsula which goes into eastern. Now this is all the tropical climate. So these are the different kinds of tropical climate. Again, something like this can come as a match the following kind of a question. So please do pay attention to this. Okay. Now, each of these areas receives different quantities of sunshine and rainfall, experiences variations in the temperatures across seasons, and is affected differently by the monsoon. Okay, this is something again we have studied in the first 3 chapters of this particular book, which is part 1. Okay, understanding weather, the climates of India, all that. Please go and have a look at it. Okay, now India is divided into 15 agroclimatic zones. In simple terms, climate factors, different types of soil, terrain, and types of vegetation are combined to create these categories. These categorization helps the government and other agencies identify and plan appropriate actions to improve agricultural production, what, when, and how to grow different crops. A few examples of agroclimatic zones are the upper Gangetic plain region, southern plateau, and the hills region, and the western dry region. I've already indicated kahan kaun sa cheez padta hai, where exactly is what. Okay, let's talk about the monsoon and agriculture, because the monsoon plays, because why is monsoon such a major factor? I hope you know this answer. Anyway, let me tell you, the monsoon plays a very important factor because India's irrigation system is not very well developed. Yes, compared to when we became independent in 1947, we are doing better, but even then it is not extremely well developed. We still depend to a large extent on the monsoon, right? We do have dams, we have check dams, we have reservoirs, etc. But even then, that's not sufficient for 46% of the population which is engaged in Indian agriculture, right? So we are dependent to a large extent on the monsoon. So India experiences which one? The southwest monsoon. We know that, which starts at the end of May or the early June from Kerala, or let's say the Andaman and Nicobar Islands. But the first state to receive it is Kerala, and the northeast monsoon, which is the monsoon which comes to Tamil Nadu in the months of November and December. Climates of India chapter, all that we have spoken about. The southwest monsoon brings rain from June to September. It is crucial for the seasonal growth of the Kharif. Kharif, Rabi, I'll just talk to you about that. That Kharif is a crop which is grown during the monsoon. Okay. In northern and central India, the northeast monsoon prevails from October to December. This brings rainfall in the east and the south of India, coastal regions including Malabar and Coromandel coast, mainly Tamil Nadu, the Coromandel coast, receive rainfall from both the southwest and the northeast monsoons. Because what happens is that, I have to draw it. I'm not sure how many of you remember it. So let me draw it and show it to you. So if this is the southern part, the southwest monsoon, okay, the southwest monsoon here, it comes in the month of, let's starts from the month of May, end of May, right? This is where Kerala is, right? And it starts moving this, it goes to Karnataka, it goes to Maharashtra, this is Telangana, this is Andhra Pradesh, this is Tamil Nadu. Okay, it does not cover most parts of Tamil Nadu, mainly because of the western Ghats here. So it goes and hits here and it causes more rainfall in Kerala, but Tamil Nadu does not get much rainfall as part of the southwest monsoon. Okay, what happens is that, and then it goes up north, central India, Madhya Pradesh, Delhi, etc., right? Later on, between October and December, when the rainfall is kind of the northeast monsoon, the northeast monsoon comes like this, and this time you have Tamil Nadu which receives rainfall. A bit of Kerala also receives rainfall, but largely it is Tamil Nadu which receives rainfall, and the Tamil Nadu coast is called the Coromandel coast. Okay, Coromandel coast is what is called the this one, Coromandel coast is the Tamil Nadu coast. That gets rainfall between October and December of the year. So the rain from these two monsoon periods enables farmers in the south to grow crops during the period in between. This is a dry season for farmers in North India who depend on other sources of water like groundwater, water from rivers, canals, ponds, and etc. Right. So this is how the entire rainfall period is this: the southwest and the northeast monsoon. So depending on when you are getting rainfall, the farmers also accordingly regulate their sowing and harvesting period. Okay. Peanuts in South India. If you ever go to Anantapur district in Andhra Pradesh, you will find groundnut. Now, groundnut, how it is grown? Groundnut is below the soil. So you uproot the thing, and that's where you will find the groundnut there. It's very fascinating. I mean, I always advise students to go to the field and see things for themselves. It will be a great education experience. All schools should definitely take students on an agricultural trip, right? Imagine that your state received less than normal monsoon rains for 2 consecutive years. Which items? Anything. It could be rice, it could be sugarcane. There could be a shortage of sugar because of the sugarcane not being there. So anything which is dependent a lot on water will be affected by the lack of good quality rainfall. Now let's look at Kharif, Rabi, and Zaid. Okay, now these are the three you have to remember, and this is something not only for class 7 but later on in 9th, 10th also, especially in 10th, you will need to know about this in greater detail. So there are three kinds of crops which are grown in India, which are known as the Kharif crop, the Rabi crop, or the Zaid crop. Okay, so Indian agriculture is mainly divided into three cropping seasons. Now, farmers have been following this rhythm for centuries. A wide variety of agricultural products have become available throughout the year. This rhythm means, it's a pattern, right? Is one of the factors that ensure food for the people. The terms, all these three terms, Kharif, Rabi, and Zaid, are coming from Arabic language. They are not Hindi or Tamil or Bengali or Marathi. They are from Arabic origin and have been in use since the Mughal times. So the first one, let's look at Rabi. Now, Rabi is a crop which is grown. Rabi is a crop. 1 minute, I put some notes out here. Now, Rabi is a crop which is grown after the monsoon season. So, the growing period this includes wheat, barley, peas, peas as in mustard, grams, right? Now, this is grown, it needs less water and it is in a cool kind of environment during the winter, and then it is harvested in the month of April, right? So they start growing it in January and they're harvested in April or middle of May. That's how it happens. Before the summer gets in, strong summer gets in, it is harvested. So the sowing happens in the month of November when the winter starts. So you sow the crop in the month of November, and then the growing period is Jan, February, and March, and then the harvesting can happen anytime between the middle of March to the middle of May. These 2 months are the harvesting periods. Okay, remember that. Put it as a table in your own handwriting. It will help you to remember it much better. Then you come to the Kharif crop, which is the monsoon season. Okay, this is grown during the monsoon season because if you look at the months are July and middle of June, when the rains have already started in most parts of India. You sow the crop, then you grow the crop, and then you harvest it by the end of October or early November. Now, this is the period for the Kharif crop, which includes paddy, that is rice, maize, jawar, bajra, sugarcane, groundnut, cotton. Okay, so you need to know which are the crops which are grown in Kharif, which are the crops which are grown in Rabi crop also. Okay, then the third comes is the summer season. Now, this, as you realize, is grown in exactly the summer months. The sowing starts, if you see here, the sowing starts sometime in March. When the summer starts in the southern part of India in the month of March itself, right? February end, March, April, May are the three hot summer months in most parts of southern India, right? So you sow the crops and then the harvesting takes place there before the rains arrived strongly, right? Though, I mean, it kind of, see, everything is a bit of an overlap. So the sowing takes place of watermelon, cucumber, muskmelon, pumpkin, etc. during the summer season. So this is the summer season crop, and it is of a short duration compared to both Kharif and Rabi. It is a short duration crop. It is not dependent on the monsoon. None of these crops which are grown, vegetables or crops which are grown, they are not dependent on the monsoon, which is why they are grown during the summer season, and they depend largely on artificial sources of irrigation, a canal, a pond, a reservoir, a tank, etc., or a sprinkler system, etc., would be used in this case. Okay, so here, as you see, Rabi is the winter crop, Kharif season is the monsoon crop, and Zaid season is the summer crop. So this is the way you need to remember it. Okay. Now, before the Arabic terms, this thing, well, the wet crops were called Kedra, the Haimaina was referred to the winter crop, that is a Rabi crop, and Greshmika was referred to the Zaid, that is a summer crop. This was the original name before the Arabic names came into being. In fact, Telangana had started using the non-Arabic terms for these crops. Okay, so the Kharif crops are largely, because they are the monsoon crops, they are dependent on the monsoon season. So you could get a true or false or an MCQ question as to which is the crop which is largely dependent on the monsoon. Or you could get an example based question. You know, Ramlal, a farmer in Uttar Pradesh, is unhappy because his Kharif crop is drying up. You know, what could be the possible reason, right? These kind of MCQs can be asked. Now, I want you to use all the test papers which I have put out for social science of the first part of the book. They're good quality question papers, because once you do that and once you listen to my entire video, your entire chapter will be revised and you'll also get to test yourself. That's the way you need to prepare for it. So make full use of all those test papers. Now you see out here the different kind of crops. This is the mustard crop. And this is the wheat crop, the pearl millet, and in the background here you see the wheat crop out there. Okay. Now again, the Arthashastra contains sections on agriculture, including the preparation of land and seeds, as well as payment to farmers and other relevant topics. A good rainy season is one when 1/3 of the. So how do you define a good rainy season? A good rainy season is defined as a period when 1/3 of the annual rainfall, if there has to be this much of rainfall to take place in a year, 1/3 of it occurs at the beginning, that is between July and August, and at the end of the season in the Kartika, between October and November months, and 2/3 in the middle, that is between August and September. So if this is kind of ensured, then you are kind of saying that it is a good rainfall year, right? So this is how it was thought of. Let's now talk about the soil part before we get into it in detail as far as the India map is concerned. So the soil, which is the upper area, is the most important. The soil has to be perfect for you to grow different kinds of crops. So the soil is the thin upper layer of the crust on which the plant is sown. The seeds are sown, that supports plant life. It is formed over millions of years through the breakdown of rocks and the decay of organic matter. Organic matter means it could be plant remains, it could be animal remains. Everything goes back into the soil, right? Because if some animal dies, you put it back into the earth only, right? So all that is part of the organic matter. It is the most essential resource for farmers as it provides the necessary nutrients, water, and support for crops to grow. This section examines the various soils. Okay, so before we get into it, let me just explain, since it is here, what is humus. I'll explain when we get to humus. Humus is the dark organic matter that is formed by the decomposition of plant and animal remains. Okay, so that forms a dark kind of a layer, the humus. It is rich in nutrients, and that's what makes humus so very important, because it supports the plant life. It retains moisture, so that way it is good for even if there is not rainfall, but if the humus is in the soil, it will retain the moisture, and that will help the plant to grow even if there is not rainfall for some period of time. So humus is the Latin word for earth or soil. So please remember this definition of humus. It is important for you to remember and understand from an exam point of view. So if you see the soil formed, so this is the rocks which disintegrate. You know how did the soil get formed? The rocks were disintegrated. This is the bedrock, which is right at the bottom, the hard rock. The top portion, the rock part started disintegrating, right? And then there was all this organic matter which was there on the topsoil part of it, right? So this is the entire parent material which is formed after the soil has been, the rock has been disintegrated, right? So there you also have, as part of the topsoil, you have the humus, and that is helping all these plants to kind of grow. You have mineral fragments and organic matter, and then you have the thing, the organic matter in the topsoil. This is how you see these many layers actually get formed of the topsoil. So this is where the roots of the plant take growth, and if this part is perfect, it will help the growth of the healthy growth of the plant. So bedrock begins to disintegrate, okay, and then organic materials facilitate the disintegration. Then the different layers have been formed, and developed soil supports thick vegetation, that is the growth of the plants. So what kind of soils are to be found in India? Now, in India, there are different kinds of soils. There is alluvial soil, which is largely in the Ganga belt in Uttar Pradesh. Then you have black soil, which is largely in Maharashtra, parts of Telangana, parts of Andhra Pradesh. Then you have red soil and laterite soil, again in different parts of India, in smaller quantities. Desert soil, which will be in Rajasthan, and mountain or alpine soil, which will be in the Himalayan region. Okay, so that will happen. This is an activity which you have to do. So the soil crop linkages, in addition to the agroclimatic conditions that we briefly saw above, crops are also strongly influenced by the type of soil where they grow. So you need to have the right kind of soil for the right kind of crop to grow. That becomes very important. Okay, now let's look at this map, which is very fascinating. I'll go through it slowly and one by one so that you are able to correlate it to the India map. Now, let me first explain what exactly is weathering. Now, weathering refers to the process by which, what I just now showed you, rocks and minerals are broken down into soil particles through physical, chemical, or biological means. That is, rocks and minerals are broken down into soil particles through, and that process is called weathering. And that happens over many years. It's not like, it started on Monday and finished on Tuesday. Not like that. It will take place over a long period of time, and that is called weathering, where the entire process of rocks and minerals, they are broken down into soil particles. It could be a physical, it could be flooding of that area, it could be earthquake in that area. For different physical, chemical, or biological means, it will kind of change shape. So here you are saying the first one is sandy soil, which is made up of small grains of sand. Okay, the sandy soil, which is there essentially in Rajasthan, right? So this is the yellow one. This is essentially the Rajasthan part. This is the Pakistan border. Now this is Pakistan. This is the Indo-Pakistan border, and this entire area is the Rajasthan state, where a little bit of water, air, and organic matter mix, it becomes sandy soil. Okay, so this is essential, and it is not very conducive for growing different kinds of crop. You can't grow rice and sugarcane, etc., in this place. Then the next one is this is the entire Jammu and Kashmir and a bit of the Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand states. Okay, I want you to most definitely have an India map in your study room. It will really help your understanding of social science if you do that. So please, parents listening to this, teachers listening to this, please recommend that you definitely use an India map in your study room. Now this is called the alpine soil. Now what is the alpine? We already said the alpine kind of climate in the Himalayan region. These are formed by the freezing and melting of ice, which leads to weathering of rock, and the soil is thin, rock, and rough and rocky. This entire thing is Jammu. This is Kashmir. This is Jammu. This is Ladakh. this will be Himachal Pradesh, and this will be Uttarakhand, right? This will be the essentially the different kinds of states out there. Okay, is this clear? Let me move down now. Okay, now the green part that you see is all the alluvial soil. This is the alluvial soil out here, right? The pink one is the red soil, which is essentially what Bihar, Jharkhand, parts of Orissa, etc. And also this part, which is Telangana, Andhra Pradesh, a bit of Karnataka and Tamil Nadu also. Okay. Sandy soil, we have already seen the yellow one. Alpine soil, we have seen it in Kashmir. And laterite soil is very little parts, which is essentially a bit along the coast, the Konkan coast, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Goa coast, and here a bit near Assam. Okay. And here a bit in Jharkhand, right? Jharkhand and parts of Bengal, right? So this is what it is. So silt, let's understand, silt is a fine grained dust like sediment composed of rocks and mineral particles that are larger than clay, right? But smaller than sand. So silt size wise, it is smaller than sand, but it is bigger than clay. As a result, they are easily transported by rivers from the mountains to the plains. So silt is something which is transported from the mountains. It comes down and mainly it is formed the alluvial soil has a lot of silt, and it helps in the fertility. It contributes to the fertility, which means it is more fertile. It will help in growing of crops more easily. So silt becomes important. So let's move down so that you are understanding. So black soil or cotton soil, it's called black cotton soil is what we refer to. So where is it? You are seeing this is in parts of Maharashtra. This is part of Telangana. This is part of Madhya Pradesh, right? So here you have the black soil or the cotton soil, which is formed by the weathering of volcanic rocks, holds a lot of moisture. When you kind of, I've seen a lot of it, black cotton soil. When you lick it, it will be in lumps, right? And you can feel the wetness of that soil, of the black cotton soil. And it is very fertile. It is, after alluvial soil, black cotton soil is considered the most fertile. Then you have the laterite soil. This you see it in the southern part of central Tamil Nadu. Laterite soil or brick earth formed by the weathering of rocks by rain becomes hard in hot weather. Most minerals get washed away, leaving largely iron and aluminium, react with air and water, and gives a reddish color. It is not considered very fertile. The most important part out here that you need to remember is that it has a red color because it has a lot of iron in it. Iron means it will have a lot of red color. So it has a reddish color and it is not fertile. So please remember this as far as laterite soil is concerned. Black cotton soil is very fertile. Okay. Then you have the red soil formed by the weathering of lava that has cooled down of old rocks. They are red because they have a chemical called iron. So these are also red in color and they are also not very fertile. So when you're talking of not fertile soils, you have the sandy soil, you have the laterite soil, and you have the red soil. Whereas the alluvial soil and the black soil are very fertile. Now the alluvial soil has the silt deposits, okay, which are brought from the rivers from the Himalayas to the plains, right? And they are rich in nutrients and they are obviously making the soil extremely fertile. So this particular page in your textbook, I hope you have understood now. Very, very, very important. Okay. Let's move to the next page on the right hand side. Okay. Now here you see what it will show you what is grown where. Okay. These two pages are the most important pages as far as Indian farming chapter is concerned. So you have in the sandy soil maize, bajra, groundnut, vegetables and fruits grown. Okay. Then you have in the alpine soil the rice, tea, nutmeg, cardamom, vegetables and fruits. Okay. Bedrock, I just want to make you bedrock refers to the original rock from which new rocks, and bedrock is what is bed, which is like at the bottom. That's why it's referred to as a bed. And from there, that's the original rock, right? From which new rocks and soils are derived through weathering, erosion and other processes. Then what is there below here? In this is the black cotton soil. Black cotton soil, you have wheat, rice, jawar, urad dal, sunflower, groundnuts, cotton, sugarcane, etc. is grown in the black cotton soil. Then you have the laterite soil where rice, wheat. Now, wherever they have put this kind of a star mark, which means that these crops are not here on the ideal soil. It's like, I wouldn't say laterite soil ke liye wheat, I mean, laterite soil is not the ideal soil to grow wheat, right? But if you don't have a choice, thing, but it may not be the best quality crop. You grow it here, you grow it in alluvial, fantastic. You will get a fantastic crop, right? Similarly, these are the crops in the red soil, and these are the crops in the alluvial soil, right? So if you grow, now here you see, alluvial soil is not ideal for cotton. Black soil will be ideal for cotton, right? So you need to be able to remember. I'm not asking you to remember each and every crop, but at least 4 crops from each soil you need to be able to remember, so that if you get questions, you are able to cite the examples. Always remember, like I was telling you in the test paper, the 3 test papers that I put out recently, please cite examples, because that will make your answer look that much better. Okay, it will show that you understand the topic very well. So what I'm going to do now is to pause this particular chapter's explanation video here. In the next part, we will finish the remaining part of the chapter, and in the third video, I will do a separate test paper which will include the questions at the end of the chapter also. Okay, I hope till here everything is absolutely clear. So what you have to do now is to share the video, hype the video, and subscribe to the channel if you have not done so far. Okay, tata, bye bye, thank you very much, namaskar.